Good evening. We begin tonight with the trials and tribulations of adolescence, a challenging time of life for nearly all of us. But imagine growing up with Asperger's syndrome. Although this variant of autism was first identified more than 60 years ago, it still remains a mystery to many. And this means that life can be particularly tough for those with the condition. Here's Nightline's John Donvan.
It's about perfect to sing in a choir if the thing you've missed in life is the simple pleasure of fitting in. As long as you can follow the notes, no one can pick you out as the different one.
Nice and shiny, feel the chord, nice and high.
The odd one, as long as the music plays. As long as the music plays. But what happens after that?
I'm going to explain this to the entire group, okay?
Well, if you are Daniel Corcoran, a sophomore at Ramapo College in Mahwah, New Jersey, you take the daring step, maybe the dangerous step, of coming out, as he puts it.
I have a condition that I've had like my entire life, always will have it.
As a man with Asperger's syndrome.
It's about autism and Asperger's, and I have Asperger's syndrome. Melissa and Val, right? Hi, I have Asperger's syndrome.
About the fact that he is different, in a way that he can never change.
But I just wanted to go around a little bit, get them a view of me and stuff.
You're telling a lot of people today, that you have Asperger's. And what do you want them to do with that?
I'm willing to take this risk, honestly. I'm not afraid to tell people anymore what it is I have.
What do you want them to do with that knowledge?
I want them to be further educated and to know for future reference, don't mess with people just because they're a little different. Maybe they can't help it. Maybe they were just born that way.
Okay, now here we go past.
First, the backstory, because chances are you'll recognize some of the details. Daniel Corcoran growing up was that kid you knew in school who was, well, a little odd. Not slow, in fact, likely the opposite. He might be great at math or computers or baseball stats, but he'd be no good at sports himself because his coordination was off. And he tended to get stuck on certain subjects obsessively. For Daniel, it was fluorescent lighting of all things.
The second you flick the switch, bingo, it's on.
And then he couldn't let go of it.
It's called 32-watt T8 fluorescent lamps.
Or as his mom remembers it,
he told me he wanted to be a street light for Halloween, and I said, "You're on your own with this one. I have no clue." And we got a shoebox, and he went out and he bought colored gels, and he rigged up this thing, and darned if he wasn't a street light for Halloween that year.
All right, left turn.
All right.
One final thing you might recall about that kid who was like Daniel, when you all hit middle school, the scorched earth zone of American childhood, his life became a social nightmare.
There was a bully, and he began taunting and teasing and actually physically pushing Daniel into the wall.
I got a lot of different names like Big Nose Freak, Loser.
One day he came home and his shirt was ripped. One day his head was a little bloody.
Calling me a retard.
Oh, it doesn't feel so good as a parent when your kid comes home and says, "So-and-so called me a retard."
Pretty nasty names for a disability, because that's what Daniel has. Asperger's, with its odd behaviors and obsessions, is a form of autism that somehow brings out a mean streak in those who don't know any better.
I'm big into Star Wars, too.
Really?
Yeah.
I think they're making a 7, 8, 9.
They are?
Yep.
Just ask Noah Orant, a 12-year-old who wouldn't hurt a fly. You can see that. You can also see that he's quirky.
Do you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? All of them? On DVD? Oh, man, you're lucky.
And he paid for it in the 5th grade.
There were a few kids that didn't like me.
And they were calling you names?
Yeah.
Were they hurting you physically?
No, they just did the regular stuff.
Like?
Gestures and calling me names.
What did you do? Did you say anything?
No. I didn't.
You just took it quietly?
Yep.
Just hurt inside?
Yep. I mean, after that, my life would never be the same.
In some areas, there have been reports of 90% of kids with Asperger's are getting bullied on a daily basis.
90%?
Jed Baker is a psychologist who consults for the Millburn, New Jersey Middle School, which tries to make it work for kids with conditions like Asperger's, kids like Noah, and also Eli, who is 12.
How does Asperger's work? How does it make you different?
There's something in my brain that makes me think different than other people. But it is nothing, okay?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I think when I first saw him early in elementary school, really didn't have friends then, and had a really hard time connecting and a real hard time attending, too. He just was not tuned into anyone else's conversation.
You found out what she has yet?
What do you have? We have an Xbox.
It's the sort of skill that Baker is teaching at Milburn in sessions where he pairs kids with Asperger's with volunteers from the student body who become practice partners in just talking.
So, Noah, what are you doing over the weekend? Nothing. Nothing? You're not, oh, we're going to see you in Florida.
Tell me about what was happening there. What were you learning there?
I was learning about basically just how to make friends and stuff. I mean, in my old school, I never had many friends. I was just merely called Game Boy Freak or stuff.
Game Boy Freak?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, but there was one kid who was the worst.
What did he do to you?
He just called me names, and he was not nice. He was mean. Mean to the bone.
Really?
Yep. I just was so mad, I just couldn't let out my anger. I was just like hiding it.
In fact, kids compete to be accepted as partners in the program, and that has had a huge effect on kids' attitudes toward the disabled in this school.
So working with what were once called the uncool kids has become a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
You know what?
In short, Noah and Eli, they don't get picked on here. They told me that themselves. They actually have friends.
This is a really different place, isn't it?
I know. I'm having a lot of friends. I like the school, the staff, even Dr. Baker.
And what about Daniel Corcoran, that college student for whom middle school is now years in the past?
I couldn't be happier, you know. All right, go on.
You couldn't be happier. Wait, I have to stop because that's really an important thing.
I couldn't be happier than I am now. I haven't felt like in this amazing frame of mind since who knows when. Being at this school has helped. It's like all dreams start to come true.
We would soon learn that Daniel was having a very good day when he said this, but that he has also had bad days, like the rest of us, only not really like the rest of us.
Hey.
Hi.
He had grown up in so many ways.
What are you doing?
You'll see.
We would hear when he had lunch with the guy he dorms with that conversation.
I don't know. It happens. Sometimes girls say no.
Real conversation is a skill he has finally learned after years of working at it.
I don't know. It's like I'm too nervous to try to overcome their objections.
But actually, romance is now what perplexes Daniel as much as bullies once tormented him.
I guess the biggest weakness of having Asperger's for my whole life has just been being able to talk to people.
It's something he's now trying to learn.
I will notice if something is not exactly right about the conversation. I'll notice if it's not a smooth mesh.
And what will you do if it's not?
Nowadays, what I try to do is say, see you later. Like if she doesn't smile back at me, you know? Yeah. If she just doesn't seem into the conversation, I'll just know to back away.
I'm sure everybody has told you, from your father to counselors to friends, that everybody has trouble talking to women. I'm sure they've told you that.
Multiply it by about 50, and getting smaller, though, that's how hard it is for me. Yeah, eating my snack.
No, it's not.
On the way over.
Okay.
Even at Ramapo, a college dedicated to helping students with disabilities make it, the girl issue is complicated for Daniel. Some of them have been put off by his assertive declaration that he has Asperger's. He oversteps at times, but that's Asperger's. And all Daniel wants is to figure out how to live with it.
As long as I stay on my ground and I am who I'm supposed to be, you know what? Others are really, really, really going to love me too. I really do think some people are going to like me, and I am convinced I'm going to meet somebody really special someday.
I think you will too.
Thank you.
And if Daniel can picture that day, so can those who have known him all his life and know how much he wants what everyone else has.
I think there are a lot of people who believe that anyone on the spectrum doesn't have the range of emotions that your average person has, and I beg to differ. I think it's all there. It may be a lot more difficult for them to express, but, excuse me, but it's all there. Getting choked up.
Fitting in while standing out. It isn't always easy for anyone, but some of us just have to work harder to get there. I'm John Donvan for Nightline in Mahwah, New Jersey.